Hello, and once again, welcome to the Courage the Cowardly Dogcast. As ever, I am your host, Alex, and joining me for the fourth time, as always, is Matthew, aka Notice. And
It's
today,
me. I'm that man.
it's him. And today we are going to talk about the uh, the episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog where Courage meets Bigfoot and Hothead.
Two, one of the things that I'm starting to notice, and it's a pattern here, is one episode does one thing, and then the other episode is the prime opposite. And
Yeah,
I'll elaborate what I mean on that
I
once we get started.
I think of the episodes we've seen, the more like actually scary one of the episodes is, it feels like the other part of the episode of the show has to be like as completely anti-scary as that other episode.
I love the fruit dancing bit though.
I I think that bit lasts a little too long, but
I totally agree.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So we're actually recording this episode to look past the veil of production to peek behind the curtain, as it were. This is actually the first episode we recorded in like roughly a week from the last time, like even less than that actually. Uh, so
Imagine.
I don't imagine in the meantime you've managed to watch or see anything new and spooktacular.
Not even a little bit, other than myself in the mirror.
No, yeah,
Yeah, there he is.
that's him. The
The Lankoid.
the big scary man. It has been rumored that you are known to frighten animals with the strange way in which you move.
I hate that you guys have picked that up. I hate that I told you that. I hate that you know that.
Like it could just mean so many things. It could either mean like you gesticulate wildly like the guy from Food Fight, voiced by Christopher Lloyd. It could mean you're like
Yeah.
that dude in that scary, that funny meme image where it's like the guy running down the school hallway and the dude's like floating behind him in a T pose. It could mean so many things, and it is funny in every different way you can imagine it.
Well, the thing is, generally, like, I walk up to a cat, and the cat looks up to me, and it's just like, and I'm like, okay, not walking up to this cat.
I don't. I have the opposite effect, and I wish I didn't, because I do not like cats, and I am very allergic to them.
I don't like cats, but that's just because they don't like me.
You gotta let the cat come to you.
All right.
Well,
Well,
you're a very skinny guy, so and cats are afraid of snakes, so maybe it like sees like you're made of snakes.
my disguise.
You're a snurson.
Snerson.
But in lieu of actually consuming something spooky in the meantime, I've done some research. So on last episode, I gave Notice a bit of grief for the way for describing the way Courage sounded, and I am now like 80% sure that Mr. Grabstein, the voice of Courage the Cowardly Dog, he's probably Jewish. Like I, granted, my research begins and ends with Googling Marty Grabstein Jewish question mark, and like his Wikipedia page says that his family used to own a locally known deli in New York called the Grabstein Deli, which is apparently shut down, and it was noted as a Jewish deli. Uh,
Well, it's difficult to say, really.
yeah, I mean, again, the best way to answer that would probably be to talk to the man himself, but I mean, he seems like a nice enough guy. But
He seems nice. I mean, like, didn't he play a very Jewish character?
he yes, his biggest role aside from Courage the Cowardly Dog, as far as I can tell, was in 3 episodes of the original Law and Order series. He played a man by the name of Shlomo Feinberg, which is on the nose to say the least.
I just get this image in my head of him like as one of quote the Shlomo guys.
Yeah, Gavin Free, Dan, and Shlomo.
Shlomo. Oh boy.
So in lieu of that, I also have another piece of information. I was able to, in my research for this episode, I came across an interview that Mr. John Dilworth did in 2013 for someone's Tumblr blog, because in 2013, 2014, they were trying to test the waters for a revival of Courage the Cowardly Dog, like a reboot, as it were. And in the interview, we wondered aloud why Muriel Bagg plays the sitar, and apparently that is actually a question that Mr. Dilworth answered, in that there was a Cartoon Network employee. I don't know if she was like an executive or what, but she was like one of the big champions for Courage the Cowardly Dog as a show, and she was a sitar player. And so every time we hear Muriel play the sitar, that is actually a recording of her playing. So like,
Really?
yes, so Mr. Dilworth made Muriel a sitar player as like a fun Easter egg homage to this lady that was like an incredibly vocal supporter of the show in the network. Her name is Linda Saminsky. I don't know if she's still with Cartoon Network. I don't know if she's done anything else or has helped any other shows in particular, but that's a fun little thing that Mr. Dilworth did.
I really like it. Mr. Dilworth seems fun, judging by his website.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty out there guy. In that interview, he also mentions that like his greatest inspiration is Salvador Dali, which is like
That,
that's like telling
that
me
makes a
that
lot of sense.
that's like telling someone the ocean is salty. It is the most unsurprising thing ever. It's like, clouds are.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Alex, are you still with us? Uh-oh.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, my USB splitter for my laptop, it's been on the fritz lately, so I just had to unplug it and just plug the mic in directly.
Oh, jeez.
This is an anti-sponsorship for the Insignia USB splitter.
A notorious anti-sponsor.
Exactly. They attempted to sabotage the podcast just now.
This podcast is under attack by our anti-sponsor.
Exactly. So, but yeah. Oh, gosh. Maybe instead of talking about something I did recently, I can instead recommend. Let me dig into my handy dandy reading drawer here. If you like good, lighthearted horror stuff that's a little more mature than Courage, I would recommend reading Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. It's a pretty good read. It's a bit of a send up to Scooby-Doo, what with the name, where basically it's a gang of mystery solving teenagers have really bad PTSD from the last big case they did, and part of the book is them like trying to unpack like what they saw that night and also uncovering the real mystery of what happened. It's pretty good.
That seems like a goofy premise, but I've seen like way stranger things come out of Scooby-Doo, including Courage, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
But well, like with Meddling Kids, like the thing that causes them to reunite is basically the Fred Jones of the group ends up committing suicide, and they're like, okay, this thing that we saw 20 years ago is clearly eating at us. We need some kind of closure. So
that's a shame.
Yeah. So on that note, let's talk about one of the goofiest episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog we've seen so far. Courage meets Bigfoot.
Now, this episode is the opposite of the second episode, because the second episode was a fairly surprising one for me. But I will tell you this right now. I saw the name Courage Meets Bigfoot, and I had a guess in my mind as to how the episode would go. And from that point onwards, beat for beat, it played out in my head exactly how I thought it would.
Really?
Yes, it was like, yep, okay, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then he's going to do this, then that's going to happen. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, the episode's over.
Yeah, I imagine the blueprint for it in your head is Courage will see something spooky, Courage will run into Bigfoot, hijinks ensue, Bigfoot is friendly, Eustace gets run off on a rail.
That is pretty. Well, the big thing that I imagined would
The
happen is,
Bigfoot.
okay, this is going to be like every Bigfoot story mixed with Courage. So Courage sees something spooky. Nobody believes him. It's Bigfoot. There's a reward for Bigfoot. Eustace wants the Bigfoot. He doesn't get the Bigfoot because the Bigfoot's friendly. Episode ends with Eustace getting beat up.
Okay, yeah.
That was the exact, like, because the thing about Bigfoot is he's not really like any other monster or cryptid that might appear on the show. Bigfoot's pretty chill in the majority of stories he's in.
Yeah, like it's pretty rare that Bigfoot is like the villain of something. He's more or less incidental. Like there are things like Bigfoot that tend to be kind of nasty. Like here in Florida we have the skunk ape, who is basically Florida Bigfoot but stinkier and more aggressive.
Yeah, because like the Bigfoot's more just like a wild animal, like kind of like a bear or a coyote, where like, yeah, he might hurt you, but not for like any particularly malicious reason.
Yeah, he'll like throw you to make you go away.
Yeah.
But also, right up top, do you believe in Bigfoot?
No.
Okay, neither do I. Damn it! I was kind of hoping we would. would be...
Sorry.
No, it's...
Listen, you can't get me to say Bigfoot is real. I think that is
you
an
just
absolute.
Did, and I have it recorded, and I can.
No. Yeah, but you don't know how to edit.
I can learn, and it will be my text notification. Just you going, Bigfoot is real.
This is how we do it. This is how the show comes to improve.
Yes. But no, Bigfoot, like, he's a fun thought experiment, but I have, like, even as, like, a kid, I never believed in, like, Bigfoot. Like...
Well, I think that, I think that, like, Bigfoot's one of those things where, like, it's a fun idea, but, like, you have to make too many leaps of logic.
Yeah, too many big steps.
And in this modern world, by the way, I hate you for that, but in this modern world, with a million cameras everywhere, where every single hiker, trailblazer, and mountaineer has a camera on them at all times, I don't buy it.
Yeah. Well, it's also just one of those things where it's like, we would have seen one of them by now. Like with giant squid, we knew giant squid was like a real thing because we had like dead bodies of giant squids wash up on the beach, and there's like a long list of like historical records of the giant squid, like as anecdotal as historical records may be sometimes. And then like in 2010s or whatever, we finally have like photographic video proof that the giant squid is real and like it's alive and still in the world today. And
the thing about the giant squid is like it's got the ocean to hide in.
Yes,
which is a
infinitely
really
bigger,
much better hiding place.
Yeah, like we would have stumbled across a dead Bigfoot by now, or a Bigfoot den, or a live Bigfoot that was attracted to the smell of garbage from a dump. Like that, like there, if Bigfoot was real, we would have seen Bigfoot. We would have more than a blurry photograph or that old movie from like the 1960s, which a guy who made that movie has come out and said, yeah, that was fake. I was the dude in the suit.
Yeah.
So we've already kind of gone over like the broad strokes of this episode. Courage is startled by scary noises while he's making a delicious snack of what appears to be blueberry pie, and he does the charades
And
thing
he's got
again.
milk, which I appreciate because I like milk with pie.
Yeah, milk is a great go to, especially with like a tart dessert, because milk is like naturally kind of sweet.
I drink milk with everything. I just had Chinese downstairs before the podcast started, and I had milk with that, and I love it.
Ooh, what'd you eat?
Uh, Chicken, like little orange chicken.
Ooh, there's a discussion for later. Um, but he does the charades thing again, and this is the
Oh right. So he's eating pie, and he looks out the window, and something's messing around with the trash, and then he goes to Muriel and Eustace, and he's like, I
yeah, he turns
mean,
into a
more or less.
dinosaur. This is also the first time in the history of the show that Eustace calls Courage a stupid dog.
Really, I legitimately thought he'd called it earlier.
Nope, he does it in the intro, but this is the first time he calls him a stupid dog. So,
That's surprising.
yeah. So, Muriel thinks raccoons destroyed the trash cans, and there's like widespread devastation around the outside of the house. And as someone who lives in the woods surrounded by raccoons and possums, I can tell you for certain they will do that to the trash.
Well, I think it was more the gigantic bite mark out of one of the trash cans that tipped Courage off.
Possums are incredibly tenacious.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Like,
But
raccoons got the little grabbers and kind of like pseudo thumbs. Possums just got teeth, man. If your lid doesn't like lock in place, they will tip that over and dig in. So I
the
actually
two rules of raccoon is that garbage is delicious and the world is garbage.
exactly, and possums are friends. Official statement of the podcast: do not be mean to possums. Possums are your friend.
More or less.
I mean, the possums are good boys. They eat ticks. They're resistant to rabies. They're the only marsupial in the United States. They're good boys.
All right.
Raccoons are good boys too, but don't feed them garbage. So this is actually so. I will say this episode, as goofy as it is, does actually a pretty good horror kind of job of like hiding Bigfoot for the longest time and kind of letting you use your own imagination for what Bigfoot could look like or what the monster could actually be. Like, you don't see Bigfoot dead on until like almost halfway through the bit or the episode.
Well, they do the obvious thing of making a giant footprint because, Bigfoot.
But like he's always like just off camera or just out of eye shot, and I actually think it's pretty cool how they do that. Like that's like a classic horror thing of like letting your imagination do the heavy lifting.
Well, like, so you don't see Bigfoot for a while, but Courage finds a giant feet print, and it's evident that the citizens of nowhere have figured him out. So on the TV, the reporter man is just like, "We've got Bigfoot, people! Like, he's in the area, and the museum is offering $25 and a lifetime membership for the capture of Bigfoot."
Yes, this episode has the debut of the character known only as Nowhere Newsman. He's in the intro for every season. There's not really much to say about him other than he's also voiced by Paul Scheffler, who is the Cats, Dr. LeQuack, etc., etc. But he's like a stereotypical 1940s newsman.
I like that he does the Southern thing of saying that there's a reward instead of a reward.
My people. My favorite part about the gag is that the news guy blames Bigfoot for the Titanic, the fall of Rome, and the loss of the Sphinx's nose.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he blames like all the disasters that going around here recently on that devious Bigfoot.
I think that wait, he said going on around here recently, and he mentioned the fall of Rome.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I buy it.
It came after spring, before winter.
Oh yeah. So yeah, like Eustace gets really, really excited about the idea of $25.
Look, man, he's old.
Yeah, he is old. I don't know what he can buy with $25 reduce.
I'm gonna assume the cost of living in nowhere, Kansas, is incredibly low.
That's fair.
Like, they live in like a 3-room shack that has both a basement and an attic, and they don't seem to have any steady income. They could probably stretch $25 out pretty far in nowhere.
You know what? That's probably right.
So, we get the Muriel with a classic stupid gag of where he's talking about Bigfoot, and she just goes like, "What's wrong with your foot?" And Courage finds the big footprint, and he thinks of all the ways that a singular big foot can menace Muriel in particular. My favorite.
Yeah, I mean, like, would you imagine it involves being stepped on?
Yeah, I think my favorite is the football kick.
Yeah.
So yeah, we also then run into Bigfoot's mom. Spoiler: she's the kid that she's looking for is Bigfoot. She's
Yeah, it's not surprising, but like there's an old lady who comes to the door and she's like, "Have you seen my son?"
Have you
And
seen
Eustace
my
is just like
boy?
and Eustace is just like, "No." Which is supposed to be a dick move, but I mean, he's telling the truth.
Yeah. Uh, so Eustace decides that he's gonna go out and capture Bigfoot with like a fishing rod and like a slave collar, and then Courage immediately walks into the room that Eustace just left and sees Bigfoot eating pie.
And Muriel is just feeding him the pie. Muriel's just like, "Hello."
Yeah, Muriel's a sweet old lady.
Yeah, she doesn't care. And here's the first time you get a look at Bigfoot. And he doesn't quite look how I expected him to.
Yeah. He I mean, he looks like Bigfoot. Like if you
Kinda.
I mean, if
I
you
was imagining him being a lot lankier, but he's got like the superhero triangle bod going
yeah.
on.
There is a villainous character in later seasons that I would say is much more Bigfoot in shape. Like, we'll get there when we get there, but there is someone that looks a little more classic Bigfoot, let's call it. But yeah, Courage and Bigfoot get in a dumb food fight, and I think this bit for the episode lasts way too long.
It lasts for like 3 of the 11 minutes.
It lasts for 3 of the 11 minutes, and I mean, it does a good job of telling the story because you can see over the course of the food fight, Courage is not afraid of Bigfoot anymore, and he's just having fun throwing food at him.
Yeah, until the point where they start throwing fruit, and inevitably they wind up in hula skirts with fruit on their heads, and they just do a little dance.
They dance to one of the most horrifying songs I've ever heard put to my ears.
You really didn't like it that much?
Look, it's very silly, but it doesn't got a lot of teeth to it. It's not like,
I can't really think of a lot of hula songs that have teeth, Alex.
I wouldn't say it was hula. It's just someone screaming la 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 really loudly.
I imagine like, man, this hula song is great, but it could use some real edge, you know? Like,
I mean, it's not a hula song though. Like I said, it's just someone like raspily screeching la 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 into the mic over and over again.
I feel like most of why I loved that scene was specifically that person doing that.
That's fair.
But because the internet has just destroyed my sense of humor that thoroughly.
Yeah, fair enough. So they're having a good time. They're dancing. and someone just hucks a rock through the window and hits Bigfoot in the head. Very rude. And
Yeah, Muriel was pissed.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd be too. They broke a
Yeah,
window,
I'd be too.
and so they walk outside, and they have what I can only describe as a Bigfoot lynch mob out to get Bigfoot.
Led by Eustace.
Yep, our favorite cranky old farmer. Uh, they, I have one of my favorite gags that I don't even know if they intended it to be a gag in this bit. Is they get a big battering ram and they go to break down the door, failing to realize that Muriel is standing in an open door.
You make an excellent point.
Like, they just run around to the other side of the house, just ignore it. I guess they don't want to hurt Muriel because she's not a Bigfoot. Like, they're a very tame mob. Their aggression is singularly pointed at Bigfoot.
You know, that's fair. I mean, he is the one with all the danger about him. Like they're a shockingly level-headed mob,
Yeah.
as we see shortly after. Once they realize that Bigfoot isn't dangerous, they kind of back off.
Yeah. So yeah, Bigfoot's mom shows up and Bigfoot, like, Kool-Aid Man's out through the side of the wall, and we find out his name is Theodore, which leads me to believe he might not actually be Bigfoot. He might just be a hairy nudist.
Well, yeah.
Like, he might just be, like, a mentally...
Wait. You thought he was actually Bigfoot?
Well, he is Bigfoot, but...
Well, No, I just thought he was just a weird guy who looked like Bigfoot, and that was the twist.
No, I think he is just Bigfoot, but his name is Theodore.
No, I thought that the idea was that this woman gave birth to a genetic freak who happens to look like Bigfoot.
No,
Is this gonna be?
It is just Bigfoot. Like, he's credited as Bigfoot. I think she just named him Theodore, and her being like a weird old woman thinks he's a human boy.
All right.
I
guess this is one of those great mysteries that we'll never know the answer to.
If we get hold of John Dilworth, we'll know who to ask.
All right.
So yeah, the mob seems pretty chill out on Bigfoot. Eustace tries to capture Bigfoot, and then the mob turns on Eustace and runs him out of town. He'll be back, don't worry.
He always is.
He always comes back. And Bigfoot is led home by the ear by his mother.
Yeah, who gives him a good sassing.
He deserves it. He stopped playing in the back. You only play in your own backyard unless, like, you tell your parents where you're gonna be. If you don't have a phone, like, let them know and try to hang out with somebody that you know that has a phone. But yeah, so my ultimately closing thoughts on this part of the episode, I was kind of meh on it. Like,
I think I agree. I think this is the weakest episode we've seen so far.
yeah, like,
Aside from the part we disagree on, where I think the hula bit is hilarious simply because of the guy in the back just screeching.
yes, like, there's funny elements to it, but it's just like it lasts a little too long. If we got to the hula bit faster, I think it would have been funnier.
I think that, like, the problem is with this episode that it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a Courage episode, but it doesn't have enough weirdness or enough of a twist to it to make it feel unique.
Yeah, like, if the twist was actually that, no, he's not Bigfoot, he's just a really hairy weirdo, then that would be one thing. But no, he's just Bigfoot. Like, that's it. He's Bigfoot.
Bigfoot is ultimately a fun cryptid, but I don't think he's much of a threat.
Yeah. I will say, when I rewatched it, I usually skip this episode whenever I do my semi-annual rewatches of the show, and I'd forgotten how funny the, like, Courage just turning around and seeing Bigfoot at the table was. That did get a chuckle out of me.
And this brings us to... This is the second episode, as I've stated, is the exact opposite for me.
It is
Where
the.
I saw the what?
Sorry, go ahead.
I saw the title Hothead, and I didn't know where it was going, and I continued to not know where it was going throughout the whole episode, and I was consistently intrigued by it.
Yeah.
Because, like a lot of good horror stories, it keeps you interested by slowly doling out information.
Yes. I would go as far as to say I think Hothead is probably the best best part of a Courage episode we've seen so far. I I hadn't watched this in a long, long time because it's attached to the Bigfoot episode, and so seeing this for the first time in a long time, I had forgotten how much I loved it, and I can easily see why it scared me as a kid.
It's like it's a horror premise that is not like the first part of this episode because it doesn't the horror isn't something trying to get in the house, and it's not something that no one believes Courage about. It's a problem that comes from a chemical.
Yeah.
It's like more of a well, I'll let you explain the whole thing.
So, first things we have to get off the top of the right off the bat. This is the first episode in the series written by a man by the name of David Stephen Cohen. David Stephen Cohen would go on to become the head writer for Courage the Cowardly Dog, and he would go on to write some of the best episodes of the show. And I will point these episodes out when we come to them. But David Stephen Cohen is an incredibly important name for the show. This is his first episode that he did as head writer. And so it starts with Eustace wanting hair. Like, he's so bald that his head squeaks when he rubs it. So Eustace, Muriel tells Eustace to take Courage to get his hair cut. And Eustace instead goes to an experimental chemical facility to be part of, like, a drug test for, like, a hair growth formula. And there we meet a recurring minor character, Floyd.
Really? I didn't know he was a minor character, but I guess we'll find.
Floyd will make multiple appearances over the course of the show.
All right.
He, I think in every instance he's voiced by John Dilworth himself. John Dilworth is a voice actor. You may know him for playing Bigfoot in the last episode and a few other things.
Oh. But the thing that interested me about Hothead is Eustace goes off to get an experimental hair treatment. And I love the design of the building.
Yes, it's very
go
dolly.
to. It's this enormous medieval tower that's like, it feels so surreal.
Yes. Again, it is clear John Dilworth loves Salvador Dali with his buildings and his landscapes and everything.
It's like this. It feels so ominous because it kind of mixed the medieval elements with, like, this surrealist style that I think would have freaked me out as a kid.
Yes. So Eustace, ties Courage up while he enters what I would only call the SCP test chamber. Like, if you've ever seen like, if you've ever played Containment Breach, Eustace enters, like, the SCP test chamber to, like, be evaluated before they can give him the hair grow goo. And, by the way, notice, do you know what 414 divided by 6 is?
I don't. What is 414 divided by 6? Yeah, they do ask him that.
69.
Hell yeah.
Yep. It's not a recent thing, folks. It's been a joke since before the dinosaurs died out.
Neat. I completely missed that joke.
Yeah. So, Courage has to go pee, and, like, while Courage is going to the bathroom, we get, like, splices back to Eustace in the test chamber. And here's where some of the animation really shines. Like, The way Eustace's face deforms during some of the tests is really detailed and really good looking. Like when he's like, they got him in the centrifuge, like the gravity, the G tester machine or whatever, and like all the skin on his head like flies back in the wind. It looks really good.
I was a little surprised by the look of Eustace. Um, Hang on, I'm being. I just received an important email. Could you speak for a moment?
Yeah, it's all good, man. Just
Yeah.
well, I wonder if I can pause the recording. Oh no, I can't. Not with my mouse like this.
Don't worry about it. Talk a little bit about the way Eustace's face deforms,
Yeah.
if you would.
So like, this episode in general has like incredibly good, the good. I think this episode really uses the animation to some of the most effective we've seen in the show. Like the way Eustace's face deforms during the testing sequences. Later on, when we see the effects of the hair growth formula, like every time the someone with the hair growth formula on their head gets angry, it causes the thing they're angry at to explode. Like it gives you like mind explosion powers. Like we see Courage go to the bathroom and he sees Floyd get mad and blow a hole in the wall when it's out, the paper towel dispenser is empty. And like the animation and the look of it is really scary, and I could see why it scared me as a kid, because like the people doing it, like their skin turns like this off-putting orange, and like they get these big bulging purple veins and their eyes bug out of their head, and like they start sweating green liquid. Like it's incredible looking and very striking, especially for like a kid's horror show. And with Eustace in particular, since we spend the most time with him of any other character that has this hair growth formula, every time he gets angrier and angrier, like the symptoms of his anger become more pronounced and more detailed. Like at the start, he just like he turns orange and sweats a little bit, and we see like the purple lines. And then like the next time he gets even more angry, his eyes are bulging more out of his head, and his veins on his scalp look more defined, and all the way up until like the last freak out where like the big purple veins are huge and we can see them throbbing against his skin, and like he's pouring buckets of this horrible green sweat, and like you can see like his eyes bulged out and bloodshot. Like it's so scary looking, especially as like a little kid, and even now it's like, and that's not even to mention the music that they play as like the theme of these anger freakouts, where it has like the feel of like this throbbing building tension before the explosion.
I think the part that really freaked me out was the fact that like these characters who are under the effects of the serum look like they're in pain, like a lot of pain, as they're undergoing this sort of like horrific half transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sounds Eustace is making is like one of like extreme discomfort, like as though his anger is manifesting inside his mind.
Yeah. And like the other thing is that they don't seem to notice what's happening. Like the freak out happens, something explodes, but it never registers with anyone. Like when Floyd blows open the wall in the bathroom, he just seems confused about why there's a hole in the wall.
I think so like Courage realizes that Eustace is taking these tests, and he runs off to go like screaming
Yeah.
at the realization that Eustace has this chemical.
Yeah. Like the warning label on the bottle says like, do not get mad, do not get upset, do not get angry, or else. It's
Which is a very straightforward warning label. I wish more like pills had warnings like that.
yeah. Well, no, it's bad. It just says or else. It doesn't tell you what the or else is.
That's just the big or else on your medicine.
Yeah. So, Courage and Eustace start the drive home, and they get in a road rage incident with another recurring character, a man by the name of Dai Lung. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Alex, why is Dai Lung like this? Don't worry. Dai Lung, watch where you're going, you fool. He is actually he is also a recurring character. Like, he is described on the Courage wiki as like a recurring plot device.
Yeah,
Like,
which he is, I suppose.
Yeah, because like there's episodes like this where he just shows up and he's like a jerk and then leaves. But then there's episodes where it's like he's a central character to the episode. But this is not a Paul Schaeffler as Dr. Vindaloo incident. This is not a Hank Azaria as Apu kind of deal. Dai Lung is actually voiced by a Chinese guy named
Which is good.
yeah, named Tim Chai Lee, and that is his voice is just Dai Lung's voice is just Tim's normal speaking voice. Like, that's just what he sounds like. Like, he's not doing like a funny voice or anything like that. That's just how he sounds. And John Dilworth apparently made up this character because Tim is apparently a very funny man, and John Dilworth is like, I have to make a character for you to voice because you are just so naturally funny.
That's good.
So,
I like that.
And because of that, he's like one of John Dilworth's favorite characters. Like, because it is a character made for one of his funny friends that he just wanted to have in the show, and he does a great job. Like, I think anyone that's watched a lot of episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog will remember Dai Lung. They might not know his name, but you will definitely remember him. So he cuts off Eustace. Eustace, while driving away, gets angry and makes his car explode. And they get back to the house, and basically it is every encounter with Eustace at this point is like a ticking time bomb with Courage trying to stop him from making things explode. And it's actually pretty tense and well done. Because, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's just annoyance after annoyance building up, and like, it's like no matter how calm you can be, everyone has a breaking point.
I think another thing is like Eustace is not a non-grouchy man.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot think of a worse person to give this serum to in the show so far. Like, Courage could stay calm. Muriel is usually calm. Eustace is not a calm man.
No. So, there's Muriel asks him to fix her chair, and Courage knows that things will happen. So what he does is he gets Muriel out of the room, and while Eustace is fixing the chair and he's getting angrier and angrier, the phone rings, and that distracts him just long enough that he blows up the phone instead of the chair.
I think that was an excellent diversion, because I absolutely thought he was going to blow up the chair.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, keep going. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm a dumbass. Oh, right. That's right. Ass. That's exactly what I wanted to say. There's an episode of Futurama where if Bender says the word ass, the entire planet will blow up.
Yes.
And this felt like the horror version of that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I've rewatched the early Futurama seasons. Not as much as Courage, but yeah, it's the one where they join the army.
It felt really strange to me how this element of tension could be used for comedy in Futurama, and then so quickly used more obviously for horror in this.
Yeah.
Like how tension is such an important part of writing a plot, whether it's like horror or action or even comedy.
Yeah.
And like this is an excellent motivator for if X happens, Y goes wrong.
Yeah. And even then, like, compounded with like the incredibly detailed animation, like using the animation to show that as he's like getting these worse and worse freakouts, and he's putting more and more hair growth formula on his head, like the details in his head are becoming more defined, and like the music is getting louder each time, and it's like layering these annoying sound effects on top of one another to like put you in that same headspace. Like it, I am gushing about this episode. Like I had
Well, I think it's a great episode, and the other thing is I was surprised at how I wouldn't say nonchalantly it ended.
yeah,
But the big thing at the end was he grows a single hair
yeah,
and he goes, yeah. Like he's like totally pleased with it. And then it droops over and he gets mad again immediately and then he explodes.
yeah,
Like the whole house explodes.
yeah. Which I think is just even at the end of the day, it's this great horror premise that like John, like the Mr. Cohen, like twists to be like, oh no, he actually just grew a hair and he's happy about it, and then he gets immediately re-angry and blows up anyway. Like it's
So like Courage manages to get Muriel out of the house, but like Eustace is dead, but he's dead in the cartoony way where he'll be back next episode.
exactly.
But like at the end of the day, the thing that kept annoying Eustace, the chair, is the only thing that didn't blow up.
Yep. Muriel's chair is it's made out of adamantium. Like it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights. Fire will rain down from the sky. Eustace will be turned into a pillar of salt, and the 7 seals will be broken, but that chair will remain where it is.
Is this a consistent thing throughout the episodes?
Kinda. Like
All
whenever
right,
the
we'll
house
see.
gets destroyed, usually Muriel's chair sticks around.
All right.
But yeah, like it's so good because it's like I just thinking about it now, it's like the steamroller bit in the Cajun Granny Stew episode where it's like, okay, well obviously the joke is that he won't fall for the old, road closed gag and he's just going to run over Courage. But then like the immediately afterwards, like, oh no, that road was closed and he just drives off a cliff into the lake. Like
Yeah, like messing with your expectations is so important in comedy.
but it's not even that, it's messing with your expectations back to back.
Well, right. Well, that's the other part. Like you think the joke's over, but that's when it's just begun.
Yeah. But yeah, so just like my closing thoughts for this episode in particular, Hothead. Easy to see why it scared me as a kid. The music and animation are incredible and do everything in their power to elevate, and like there's also like some reading that you can do where it's like Eustace is like self-destructive and compulsive because like it's clear that his symptoms are getting worse every time he puts more hair growth formula on it, but he can't see what's happening, but like everyone like Courage can. And like as a little kid, that's like one of the scariest things is like when the people that take care of you get mad.
Yeah.
And like Eustace is getting angrier and angrier. It's like, it's I get that. Like deep down, there's like something that like kids can latch on to too.
I really like that.
Yeah.
So the episode as a whole, like both Bigfoot and Hothead, again, it's like all the others, it's kind of a realm of opposites.
Yeah.
Where one felt like the weakest to me because it did the least to innovate and felt the least unusual. And the other felt like the best one because, like a great horror story, I was constantly guessing and didn't know what to expect, but it was always horrific.
Yes. So yeah, I'm not even gonna ask like which of the two you prefer because I think we both prefer Hothead.
Yeah, Hothead. Hothead's the great one.
And How I will say the next series, the next duplex of episode couplet that we will be watching is it's not going to have the same problem as Hothead and Bigfoot. I think both the episodes are solid, but one of them is much more well known and infamous than any other Courage episode, and it is written by, oh, look at this, David Stephen Cohen. Because the two episodes we will be watching next are The Demon in the Mattress and Freaky Fred.
Oh, wait, I know that name.
Have you ever seen Freaky Fred?
No, but the name sounds super familiar. I think I've heard people talking about Freaky Fred before.
There is a lot to unpack with Freaky Fred.
Okay. I look forward to it.
You could probably have like a spirited hour-long discussion about nothing but Freaky Fred. It is.
Oh God.
There's a lot. You know how some people say, "Well, this has a lot of subtext," and you're like, "Dude, the curtains are just blue."
Yeah.
Freaky Fred has a lot of subtext, and the curtains are not just blue because that's the color the curtains are.
Oh no.
Yeah. Like the only
God,
thing
I had a teacher like that once.
the only thing John Dilworth has said in his inspiration for Freaky Fred is that he's like, I just wanted an episode that had a character that rhymed, and then David Stephen Cohen did the rest. So yeah, if there's obvious inspirations and things that seem familiar about Freaky Fred, Mr. Dilworth definitely ain't the one talking about him.
All right. I look forward to that next time.
I do too. As always, thank you once again for spending time with us, listening to us rant and rave and ramble about one of my favorite shows from my childhood. And if you like the show, please recommend it to your friends. Leave a comment below. And if you don't like the show, feel free to leave a dislike as well. Tell us what we did wrong, what we could do better, and recommend us to your most bitter enemies.
And throw a trash can through a plate glass window.
No, don't do that.
Sorry, I felt an urge inside of me that I've been trying to repress. Don't worry about it.
Your desire for anarchy is spontaneous and confusing. But thank you once again. And as always, stupid dog, you made us podcast!
Booga, booga, booga!